What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Fish Aquatics. Today we're going to be taking this aquarium stand and modifying it to move this tank down so we can add another tank on top of it. The only problem with that is we do have a little bit of a height restriction because we do have a shelf right here. So we're going to be lowering this tank down for the axolotl, putting it lower, which is going to do two things. It's going to allow the tank to stay cooler in the summer because it's closer to the floor, and we do have a crawl space, so the floor is usually pretty cool. So it's going to help this tank stay cool, and it's going to allow us to add another tank on top. But this is going to be a little bit of a special design because we're having a amphibian on the bottom shelf and a reptile on the top, which is going to be my wife's bearded dragon. So I'll show you that tank setup, and then we'll get tearing this down, and we'll build the stand. So let me show you the other tank real quick. Alright guys, so this is my wife's bearded dragon tank. It is also a 40-gallon breeder, but as you can see, it's got all the lights and everything on top. And this is our bearded dragon. Her name is Maple. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to take this tank, we're going to get off of this desk, which takes up pretty much the whole desk, right? And there's crap all over the place. So we're going to get this off of here and get it out in the living room and get it set up so we can actually enjoy it while we're sitting out there, and it's not just out here in the dining room. So let's get to it. Alright guys, so the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to drain all the water out, which you can see I've been working on already, and I have moved some of the water to two separate buckets. We're going to be putting PeeWee, the axolotl, into this white bucket and setting him aside. That way he doesn't get stressed out and he's contained all by himself, no injuries. And then we're going to be taking all of the hardscape, the wood, the stones, and the plants, as well as the filtration, and putting it in this orange bucket and setting that aside so that way we can try and keep our bacterial colonies established while we're working on this, since this is going to be a couple hours to get this project done. So we're going to go ahead, I already have the siphon hooked up draining water, we're going to go ahead and remove all the hardscape and filtration. And if anybody's wondering how big axolotls get, the bottom of this bucket is about 12 inches across, and he's about an inch from the edge of the bucket with his nose, and his tail is curled probably about an inch over, so he's about 12 inches, so pretty much full grown for this little guy here. So we're just going to set him over in the corner where it's a little bit darker so he doesn't have these lights glaring on him, and we'll get started on this stand. Alright, now that we have the stand out, the next step is disassembly. So we're going to be separating the shelves, top and bottom, from the legs. Alright guys, so now that we've got it disassembled, we have all the legs and everything separated into individual 2x4 pieces, and we have the top and bottom shelf. So you're probably wondering what we're going to be doing. So here's a little hand-drawn sketch that I did of a basic blueprint. If you want to pause the video to get an idea of what it looks like, you can go ahead. But this is what we're doing. So you can see the base of the stand is going to be 10 inches tall, and you got room for a 17-inch tank with clearance overhead to get into it, and then a 17-inch tank on top of it, plus the lighting for the bearded dragon on top. And overall, that's going to come in around 58-59 inches, which we have 61 inches with that shelf on the wall. So it is going to be a little bit under, and I'm actually doing a heat test with those heat lamps, because I know they don't get super hot on top, but they do get quite warm. So I actually have a test going right now to see what kind of reflective material I'm going to have to put on there to deflect the heat away from it. whether it be a piece of tin, weather stripping or something like that. But I'll show you what the test I'm doing right now. Alright guys, so right here I have the lights for the bearded dragon tank set up. They've both been running for quite a while now. And here you have the heat lamp side, and over here you have the nighttime heat lamp, which is just a ceramic heater, so it doesn't emit light, it just emits heat. So these do get quite hot. If we take a temperature reading on the ceramic head on it, we're looking at 160 degrees on the daytime heat lamp, 165, and then on the nighttime about 170. Yeah, something like that. So they obviously are getting hotter because they are both on, but they do not normally run both on at the same time. This is just a worst case scenario experiment. So what we're going to do is I have a piece of PVC trim. It's the same as what's on the window here. And this is going to be more prone to melting, burning, catching fire than the wooden shelf out there is. So I figured I would test it with this because wood is a little bit more resilient to heat than PVC is. As you can see, there's no burning or anything, no charring. And then we'll go ahead, I'll set this here. We'll get temperature readings. So 97. 102. Yeah, so the daytime light was putting out 102, and that's right on top. And the only reason I'm testing this is because they do have holes here that do allow the heat to come out. And you can feel it's a little bit warm above these, but that's right on top of it. We're going to have about that much clearance. And at that height, I don't really feel anything. So like I said, this is just a test for worst case scenario. Something happens. There's nothing really here to catch fire because it's ceramic and aluminum. So the only thing that would maybe be this little bit of rubber on the cord here. So, and I don't really see that happening. So, yep, just a worst case scenario test. Alright guys, so now that we have our two shelves separated and we have all of our extra wood that we're going to be able to reuse, I also have a couple 2x4s out in the garage that we're going to use for the exterior uprights. Now, being that the upper tank doesn't hold water, it doesn't weigh much. It only weighs about 50 pounds, so we're not going to use any of the building techniques that I use for the aquarium stands. We're going to do this a little bit differently because it doesn't have to be super strong. The bottom one is going to be pretty well reinforced like my typical stands, but the top one's going to be a little different. I'll show you that when we get to it because we're not going to be using a front cross brace on the shelf. We're only going to be using the side braces as well as a back brace. And the back brace is really just to prevent deflection. But aside from that, the build is pretty much going to rely on the strength of the screws, which each one of these screws, these are number 9 construction screws, 2.5 inches long, and they will support 100 to 150 pounds at shear strength. So technically, if that tank only weighs 50 pounds, one of these would be able to hold it up, and we're going to be using more than one, so it'll be plenty strong. So we're going to go out to the garage, we're going to get some boards cut, because this is going to be about 10 inches tall from top to bottom, which means we need to cut little 3-inch boards to get in there about like that. So I'm going to go out and cut those, and we'll be right back. Alright guys, we've got our pieces of wood cut. We've got 8 3-inch blocks, and they're going to be going around the outside edges like this. And then we've got 4 10-inch blocks, which is going to be the overall height of the bottom part of our stand. So we're just going to mount those on the inside corners like this, and then we'll mount our 3-inch blocks into the corners like this, therefore supporting all the way around, supporting the weight. Essentially the same way that we had it, just shorter. And then we'll take our upper shelf, once we have all 4 corners assembled, drop it down on top of that, and then run some screws in to these, hold everything together, and that'll be the bottom half. So let's go ahead and we'll get building it. Alright guys, so now that we have our base redone for the axolotl tank to sit on, what we're going to do next is we're going to go cut some 2x4s. I believe they're 33 inches tall. So this is just going to be an example. We're going to take our uprights and we're just going to attach them to the outside with 4 screws on each side. And then to build an upper shelf, we're just going to take another 2x4 and mount it on the inside like this. And that's going to allow the tank with the same footprint as the 40 breeder below it to rest on this up here. And then we're also going to have one that goes across the back, so it'll rest on 3 sides. It won't rest along the front. There's not enough weight in there to have any concern about pressure points or anything like that. It's going to be perfectly fine because those tanks are designed to hold water, and this tank doesn't have any water in it, so it's very lightweight. So we're going to go out, we're going to cut those boards, we'll come back in and we'll finish assembling it, and then we'll get all the tanks set back up, put on it, and that'll be the video. So let's go cut some boards. Alright guys, so we've got our 33s cut, our 36 cut, and our 16 3/4. So we're going to stand the stand up on its end, and we're going to attach 33s, 1 screw in each one at the base, essentially like this. I'm going to put 1 screw in here, and I'm going to do the same thing to one back here, and then I'm going to measure to make sure that the distance that I have between these two at the bottom and the top are the same. And make sure everything's square, and then we're going to put some screws in it to attach everything. We'll do the same thing to the other side, and then we're going to attach our top shelf. So, alright, here we go. Stand's built. The 40-gallon for the axolotl will go down here on the bottom. We'll slide right in there, and then the 40-gallon for the bearded dragon tank will sit right on top up here. And right now I'm going to get this stand over in the corner. I'm going to get it leveled with some shims on the floor, and then once we're leveled, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start putting the tanks back in here. So let's do it. Alright guys, so the axolotl tank is almost full again. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to reintroduce Peekaboo back into his tank. One thing I am going to do is I'm going to show you guys what they look like out of water. Now generally it's not recommended to take them out of water. They're amphibians, they're made to live in an aquatic environment, but because we had to move him out of his tank in order to reintroduce him, we're going to have to get him in there because I'm not going to be able to use a net. With the amount of space that we have here, I just don't think a net is going to be feasible because he's going to end up getting drug up over the lip. So I'm going to handle him. I'm going to take him out of the bucket, show you guys, and put him right in there. So here he is right here. we're going to go ahead and we are going to get him back in his tank. There he goes. Now, generally speaking, you don't want to handle your axolotls. Try and use a net whenever you can. But if you have to, you have to. In this case, I'm not going to be able to use a net. I may come back in here in a future time and adjust these, since this isn't really load bearing that much, so that I can actually lift this lid up higher than this right here. That's not something I really considered. But yeah, so this tank is just about full. I'm going to go ahead and turn the water off. We're going to let it rest for a couple hours, and then we'll come back and give you a final view of everything. Alright guys, so here's a good final look at the tanks. Let's take a look down here at the axolotl tank. You can see he's just hanging out. Obviously we got some bubbles on the glass because we just drained all the water and filled it back up, but he's kind of hanging out. He's enjoying stuff, enjoying life. We got the fans hooked back up on the thermostatic controller. Mounted that here. Set water temperature and current water temperature. And then we come up to the bearded dragon tank. We got her lights set up on a timer. We got her nighttime heat lamp set up to this timer. And on this timer we've got her daylight and her UVB. And she's back here hanging out. Yep, hi. But that's it guys, super easy project. Didn't take me long at all. I think it took me about 2 hours total to rip everything down and rebuild it all. And I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. Alright guys, that's pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and put a thumbs up, drop a like on the video. Leave a comment down below, let me know what you thought. And as always, thank you guys for watching Trafish Aquatics. Links for all the products I recommend in the description down below. And I will see you guys in the next video.